So let's talk for a moment about digital signatures now. Now, we talked about the public key and how it works. And we can be very confident that by putting that public key out there, we can ensure that when they send the message to us, because I am the only one who still holds the private key, no one has the ability to read my information. I alone hold the private key, okay, as Bob. Let's pretend I'm Bob for this instance. So I'm Bob. I put my public key out there. That is great. Because I have my public key out there, I know that only who people who use my public key can send me messages and no one will be able to read it as long as my private key remains private. That is great. But by putting my public key out there on the internet, I ensure I can only read the traffic, but I have no way of knowing who is sending that information. Who is sending that information? So we go to what's known as a digital signature. How can I be sure that the person who is sending me this message is actually Pat? Well, let's take a look at this. First off, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that I have Pat's public key and that I have Pat's public key and Pat has my public key. So Pat has Bob's public key. You can see it right there. And Bob has Pat's public key right there. So we have each other's public keys. We've made it available on the internet. Now what's going to happen is Pat is going to send me a message, but we want to make sure that Pat signs this message so I know this message has just come from Pat and Pat alone. Well, first off, Pat uses my public key for encryption. But how are we going to do the signature? How are we going to ensure that Pat alone sent this message? Well, Pat's going to take her private key and Pat is going to encrypt this item. So this has been encrypted twice. It's been encrypted once, and I'm even going to draw another box here. Encrypted again. So this message has been encrypted twice. And then it's sent across to me, Bob. Now, when I open up this message, I have a problem. It's unreadable. So what do? First off, I need to break the first layer of encryption. It has been encrypted by Pat's private key, so I need Pat's public key to break the encryption, don't I? So this first layer, I use Pat's public key to decrypt this. Now, this is a key pair. Remember, key 1 and 2 are a key pair. If it was encrypted by key 2, it can only be encrypted by key 1. So that means I know this message has come from Pat if I can encrypt it with Pat's public key. It's been encrypted by Pat's private key. I can encrypt this with Pat's public key. Well, isn't that a problem because everybody can decrypt this with Pat's public key? Yes, it would be. But if you remember, we encrypted twice, didn't we? We encrypted using Pat's private key, unencrypted using Pat's public key, so we can get rid of this layer of encryption. We've broken through that. There's another layer of encryption in place. This first layer of encryption, that was the signature. That's how we knew that this came from Pat. Now we need to break in to actually read the information. Now, Pat used this level of encryption. She used Bob's public key to do the encryption. So this is this layer of encryption. And this can only be decrypted by Bob's private key. So now we have a clear text message by using both pairs of keys, both key pairs. One for the signature. The signature was Pat's private key encrypting it, Pat's public key decrypting it. Very nice. We know it came from Pat because this is a private key. No one else has that key, can only be Pat. Then we actually did the unencryption using Bob's public key, which Pat used to encrypt it, and then Bob's private key to unencrypt the data and get a clear text message. This is a digital signature process. It's very, very well used in today's modern society. These key pairs are very, very important.